Okay, so today we're gonna dive into some really interesting stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Specifically, some techniques for learning English as a beginner.
Uh-huh.
And the source material we're going to be using is English listening practice,
Oh,
Conversations for Beginners,
okay.
specifically episode 7 from the English Unlocked channel.
All right.
And so this resource is really all about uh, using slow-paced dialogues on everyday topics.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
But stick with us because there's definitely more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really intriguing about this approach is that it really tackles, I think, one of the biggest hurdles for beginners, which is cognitive overload.
Oh, absolutely.
That feeling of just being bombarded with too much information at once.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I remember one time I was trying to watch a French film
Mm.
without subtitles,
Yeah.
and let's just say it did not go well.
Right, exactly. And so now imagine that feeling, but amplified when you're trying to understand and process a new language.
Right.
So by focusing on everyday topics like, ordering food at a restaurant
Mhm.
or asking for directions,
Yeah.
this resource kind of provides these bite-sized learning opportunities, right? So instead of grappling with, complex vocabulary and grammar right off the bat,
Yeah.
learners can kind of ease into the language using familiar scenarios.
Right. And that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think it's, that sense of comfort and familiarity is probably super important
Definitely.
for building confidence early on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then that kind of brings me to the slow-paced dialogues thing.
Yeah.
Um, what is it about that makes it so effective?
So think about it this way. When you listen to someone speaking in your native language, you're not consciously processing every single word.
Right.
You pick up on patterns,
Yeah.
intonation, and context clues.
Right.
And this resource actually kind of replicates that natural process by slowing down the pace of the conversation.
Okay.
And it gives beginners the space to actually hear those individual sounds and words and phrases clearly.
So instead of just being like a jumble of sounds,
Exactly.
the language starts to break down
Right.
into these
Yeah.
manageable chunks.
Manageable chunks. Absolutely.
Like kind of like listening to a song at half speed.
Uh-huh.
Suddenly you can hear each instrument and the melody.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And and what this slower pace allows learners to do is something called shadowing,
Oh yeah.
which is basically a technique where you try to repeat what you hear, mimic the speaker's pronunciation and intonation. And this helps to build fluency and reinforce those all-important listening skills.
Okay, so if you're out there listening to this,
Mm-hmm.
you're probably thinking, okay, slow and steady.
Yeah.
That's great for beginners.
Right.
But how do I move beyond that? How do I get to the next level?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's where it gets really interesting. I think this resource isn't just about slowing things down.
Uh-huh.
It's about creating a foundation. And once you're comfortable with these basic conversations, you can gradually increase the difficulty.
Okay.
So, you could try listening to the same dialogue at a slightly faster pace,
That's
or
it.
you could try shadowing without looking at the transcript.
Mhm.
But the key is to build on that initial sense of accomplishment.
So it's not just about passively listening, right?
Right.
Like you're actually engaging.
This resource encourages active engagement and experimentation.
Right. Which is so important with anything.
Absolutely.
If you're trying to learn anything, it's not just about like sitting back and watching.
Yeah,
You have to do it. You have to try.
absolutely.
And fail sometimes, probably.
Exactly.
But they're back up and keep trying.
Yep. And I think one thing to leave you with is this idea of how can you apply this concept of slow and steady wins the race to other areas you're trying to learn?
Yeah.
Whether it's a new skill,
Yeah.
a hobby,
Oh.
even a complex topic.
Yeah.
Think about breaking things down into manageable steps.
Yep.
Starting at a pace where you're comfortable
Right.
and then gradually increase the challenge.
Yeah. And just remember that the journey of 1,000 miles
Mm-hmm.
starts with a single step.
Begins with a single step. You got it.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning into this deep dive. And we'll catch you next time.
See you later.